Okay, this is Algebra 1A, Ms. Getz again. Today's lesson we're going to solve equations and inequalities using multiplication or division. Last video we talked about solving equations and inequalities using addition and subtraction. So I'm going to start out just giving you some examples. First of all, I don't see subtraction here. I don't see addition here. If you don't see any sign, it means that it's multiplication. So I'm going to draw my line down through my equal sign. X is still grouchy. He doesn't want to live by anybody. So I have to decide who has to move to get X by itself. That would be the 2. Since these are being multiplied, I have to do the opposite. The opposite is division. I'm going to divide by 2. Now, if I divide one side by 2, the rules of algebra tell me I have to divide the other side by 2. Now, 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. 1x is the same as x. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I can write this as x equals 2, because remember, if we don't have anything in front of here, it's the same as having a 1. So now we solved that. What if I have a negative in front of here? These are multiplied. We are not adding and subtracting. So we're not going to do the opposite of that negative. We're going to do the opposite of multiplication. So since these are multiplying, we are going to do the opposite, which is division. So I will divide both sides by whatever I have here, which happens to be a negative. What I do to one side, I have to do the other side. Now, negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a positive 1. That's what our goal is. 9 divided by negative 3 is negative 3. I can also write this as x is equal to negative 3. These are the same. I prefer, as we move up into algebra, that you not have the 1 in front of the x. I think that you need to write it like this. When we're first doing some things, if you need to put that 1 there, I understand. Now let's talk about what if we had some inequalities. So we have 2x is less than 4. Same thing. Draw the line. We're going to divide by 2 on both sides. These cancel, and I have x is less than 2. Same thing. I'm going to do my number line the same way. Open circle. Less than 2 goes this way, and I'm done. It's exactly like we did when we were talking about the problem up here. Here's where things change a little bit. In order to solve this problem, since these are being multiplied, I know that I have to divide by a negative 3. The rule with inequalities is if you multiply or divide by a negative, which we are going to do, the inequality switches direction. So let's come down here and do this problem. If I divide by a negative, negative 3 divided by negative 3 gives me 1. They go away. Since I'm dividing by a negative, my inequality has to switch direction. Notice we're switching direction. So now I have x is less than or equal to negative 3. That is the rule. I want you to remember this. This is something you need to memorize. Okay, let's talk about multiplying to solve. So I have k over 2 is equal to 3. First of all, I draw my line down through the equal sign. Any variable is grouchy, and they do not want to live by a letter. Or by a number, I'm sorry. So, this k is still grouchy, even though he's not an x. So we have to get rid of whoever's living by him. What happens to be the 2? These 2 are being divided. What is the opposite of division? multiplication. So I have to multiply this whole thing by 2 and multiply this whole thing by 2. Parentheses always mean multiplication. Now here's the deal. This 2 is on the bottom and this 2 is on the top. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. They cancel out. And I'm left with my letter, and I multiply. Don't try to say 2 times 2 is 4, because this is on the top and this is on the bottom. Let's do another one. K over -3 is equal to 7. Draw my line down through my equal sign. I need to get rid of this -3. These are being divided. What's the opposite of division? Multiplication. Multiplication. I have to do it to both sides. -3 divided by -3. Because one's on the top and one's on the bottom, we get to divide. They cancel. I'm left with K is equal to -21. A positive times a negative is a negative. I can do the same thing with inequalities. I can have K over 2 is less than 3. I draw my line down through my equal sign. These are being divided. What's the opposite? Multiplication. Multiplication. One's on top, one's on bottom. They cancel. I did not multiply by a negative, so my inequality stayed the same. But if I have this, I know that I'm going to be multiplying both sides by a negative. So what happens to my inequality? These cancel. My inequality switches direction. Notice. That's basically it for this lesson. When you get into class, I will be giving you an assignment that you will be solving equations and inequalities using multiplication or division.